Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting start to the Virtual World's Best Practices in Education Conference. This is our 8th year of featuring some of the greatest work in virtual worlds by educators and practitioners. It is fitting that we begin our conference with Ebbe Altberg, CEO of Linden Lab. Ebbe Altberg came to Linden Lab with more than 25 years of experience leading teams and creating software used by hundreds of millions of users. After graduating from Middlebury College, he went on to work at Microsoft. He spent most of his 12 years leading teams that created the world's most popular productivity products such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Office. He has also led teams in Ingenio Incorporated, Yahoo, and small startups like BranchOut. He plans to use the second half of his presentation to Q&A, so get your questions ready. Phelan and I will be assisting him with those. Colleagues, friends, and fellow Second Lifers, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Ebbe Altberg, our opening keynote to VWBPE 2015.
All right. Here we are. I think everything's working as it should. People hear me okay? Yeah. All right. Exciting. First off, I'm really happy to be back at the VWBPE. Last year was when I was pretty much brand new at Linden Lab, and we've had a year since then, and a lot of good and interesting things have happened that we'll talk about. And like you heard at the introduction, we're going to leave plenty of time towards the end for Q&A so that we can talk about all things that are on your mind. So since last year, there's been a lot of changes at the lab. We have simplified the portfolio of products that we're working on. Since I was here last year, we've discontinued work on 6 products. And we've also made, so we have a much more focused company now. And we're focused on things that are all relevant to user-generated content, either through Second Life, through Blocks World, or through this next generation platform that you have yet to see, but that we're working very, very hard to bring to you all. So focus has greatly improved. The other thing I wanted to talk about is some of the improvements been made in Second Life. Performance and quality has greatly improved over the last year with the CDN work and the HTTP pipeline work that some of you may have heard of, which should make access to worlds snappier than it used to be. I still think we have a lot to do to make it even more performant, but we made great strides in that area. We also brought you the ability to experience Second Life with the Oculus, so you can get sort of an introduction to virtual reality if you have a chance to get your hands on an Oculus device. And we've also, I think, made a lot of improvements in how we market ourselves, how we're connecting with you and many other customers and different audiences. Uh, I would say when I showed up here a year ago, the relationship between the lab and customers and partners was not great, and I think that's improved greatly. We've spent quite a bit of effort, particularly Pete and myself, but also many other listeners, um, socializing with you all, talking to you about what we can do better, how we can do things differently, better understanding what you're trying to accomplish. And so I think today the relationship between us and you are much improved. Um,
They missed the first sentence.
okay. Um, uh, we've spent quite a bit talking to the press. Pete and I have spoken to many. I would say a year ago that was a difficult thing to do. Second Life was seen as old and not particularly relevant. Since then, we've had a tremendous uh, sort of boom and boost in sort of all things virtual reality. Sort of kicked off with this big acquisition Facebook did when they acquired Oculus for 2 billion, and when the world started to realize that virtual reality was something that could be achievable much sooner than people who have been working in this area previously had thought. So there's been a massive acceleration in um, sort of people's minds, what virtual reality can and will do. So now it's pretty easy to find people who want to talk to us, whether it's partners or press, about what we're doing. And people are realizing that our experience running Second Life is actually extremely valuable now that virtual reality and virtual worlds are sort of all a hot topic again. So it's very exciting for all of us to have the rest of the world sort of get um, reintroduced and re-energized by what's possible in virtual reality. Um, we've also spent quite a bit of time focusing on understanding education specifically in the context of Second Life, and also understanding it so that we can do a better job of with our next generation platform to meet your needs in even better ways. And it's absolutely clear that the capabilities of 3D and virtual experiences, such as visualization and simulation, and then the ability to communicate and interact within those environments, is an extremely strong component of how we can improve learning and teaching. Um, it's we see evidence over and over again of how it's proven that people can more quickly understand subject matter, content, and experiences much better and much faster, with better retention of information if they can experience things in a virtual context where they can do things, not just read or watch. Um, we have well over 300 organizations that are taking advantage of our discount program for educators and nonprofits. I think there used to be more than that in the past, uh, and we're looking forward to making that grow back as we do a better job of meeting your needs. Um, and we continue to hear over and over again just great stories from the community of educators about what they're doing in Second Life, the success they're having in Second Life, to teach and learn all kinds of subjects, from languages to chemistry to economics to health to, I mean, it's the stories just keep going and going. And that's really motivating for us to hear these success stories. And we started a thread on our forum, and I know there's quite a few stories elsewhere out there, especially on VWBPE's.org site. Um, and so please continue to share these stories and successes with us. It helps motivate people, it helps us, it energizes us, and also helps us learn. what we can do to help you be even more successful. We, like I said, we've spent quite a bit of time collaborating and communicating with various groups in the educational community in Second Life. Um, and that's absolutely great. It's a great group of people to interact with. And um, oftentimes I've asked these groups to work together to come up with the things that they find the most important things for us to work on. Sometimes it can be difficult for us to filter and sort all the ideas and wishes and needs from a community as large as yours. And when you take the time to collaborate amongst yourselves to, further refine priorities and needs for us, it helps a lot. We have to do less guesswork to understand what really matters to you all. I particularly like to thank Cyrenek Timeless, Aldous Stern, JJ Drinkwater, and Lorelei Juno, who at the end of last year um, took that request to heart and talked to a lot of educators, I think more than 60 educators, to come up with sort of a prioritized list of issues and concerns and opportunities for us to think about and focus on to help you all. And so I'll speak to some of these, and obviously, what I don't speak to, feel free to ask questions afterwards in the Q&A session. One thing that comes up quite frequently, probably because we've made mistakes in the past, is the question about pricing. I just want to make it very clear that we absolutely have no intention of repeating the mistake we did in the past of removing the discount or increasing the pricing. So we have absolutely no intention whatsoever to make it more costly for you. We spend no time thinking how to make it more costly for you. We spend actually quite a bit of time thinking about how we can make it less costly for you. And it might be difficult to do in the context of Second Life, but we will try. Um, but as we think about the next generation platform, this is something that's sort of thought about from the beginning of how we can make it more economically feasible for more people to participate. Another thing that comes up is the ability to easily create content, simplified building and scripting capabilities so that all users can create something. We do think of creators in sort of three categories of users that we believe that we have to meet the needs of. You have the sort of the artisan or the professional people that can create some really high-end experiences. You have the hobbyists, which I would say is where sort of there's a lot of them in Second Life. Don't necessarily have a formal background in 3D or animation or CGI, but are able to use Second Life to create incredible things. And then we have the vast majority of people who we call customizers. They don't necessarily create original content, but they take bits and pieces, by shopping or finding or being given items that they can then place, whether it's to get dressed or to make their space laid out just as they like it. So they don't necessarily make the chair, but they put the chair where they want. It's sort of like the real life. Most of us don't build the clothes and cars and homes that we live in and use every day. We're customizers, most of us. We get dressed in clothes that others make, and that's probably how it's going to be in the virtual space as well. We do want it to make it as easy as possible for people to create content and contribute content. And I don't expect there to be huge changes in Second Life in this area, although we are working to improve the ability to import content from the outside world. As we think about the next generation platform, which I will talk about more later on, we'll make a number of differences that I'll speak about then. But the scripting language will change, and support for third-party tools will be very important to us. So, but I'll talk about that in a bit. Another thing, an improved and customizable new user experience, including entry points. This is something I've spoken about before. We feel it's important to make it very easy for the creators of an experience to be able to attract an audience to come directly into that experience without the need of having to go through some sort of generic front door to get going. Um, and so we will think of, we're continuing to think about that in the context of Second Life of how can we bring back notions we've had in the past of community portals or some such, and also how SL URLs or slurls can be optimized to be more efficient way of bringing users directly into a particular place. I would say the slurl today is kind of a crooked path to come on board on from the outside world. So we want to improve all these things so that it's easier for all of you to bring users directly into the experiences you want them to come into. Migrate content from Second Life to the next platform versus starting over. Again, I've said before that we don't expect 100% backwards compatibility where you can just airlift everything as it was and suddenly have it running on the new platform. That won't work. But again, if you do work in mesh and all these textures and all this content you have, make sure you have that at hand because we're going to do everything we can to make it easy for you to import that content into next generation platform. We're going to focus a lot more on the ability to import from third-party tools in the next generation platform than we ever did for Second Life. There's some incredible tools out there for creating content, and we want to support as many of them as possible. So it will be a lot of work to build new experiences. But again, we didn't want to compromise on what should be possible in the next generation platform by being strict on backwards compatibility. And in the end, it shouldn't matter because you can take your time. Second Life is not going anywhere, so you can take your time to play in both of these worlds and choose where to spend your energy on a go-forward basis. Another question comes up a lot is us hiring an education liaison, someone who focuses on this segment of users. And we've mentioned that we'd be interested in doing that, and we probably will in the not too distant future start to think about how we organize ourselves to more effectively engage in conversation with various verticals. Education is one. We have health, we have gaming, we have all kinds of different types of use cases and communities. And so, and education is a really important one. So I still feel confident that we will hire someone in a not too distant future that you can have a very continuous and ongoing high frequency sort of relationship with to make sure that we hear you loud and clear. There's also another area which is partnering with educational groups, museums, etc., to underwrite high quality content. Some of that might come down to cost. Some of that comes down to how Second Life was engineered. That every experience has to sit and occupy a region at a cost on a continuous basis, whether someone is actually visiting that region or not. And so there are things we can do, certainly in the next generation platform, where in the next generation platform, I would never expect content to have to disappear ever due to financial constraints. And it's really sad in Second Life to see some really wonderful content experiences sort of disappearing for all of us because of cost. And so that's something that we hope to completely solve with the next generation platform. If something's not visited very often, for us to store that experience out to disk and sort of load it up rather quickly if someone wants to go and visit it should prevent us from ever having to see things disappear permanently in the future. I'm not sure I can solve that in Second Life. It sort of wasn't built that way, but we will solve that for the future. Another thing that came up was flexible, reliable, and simple region control and security tools. I mean, Second Life has most of these controls. It is actually a bit complicated. I get confused myself just the other day trying to invite a journalist to my own private island and got caught on some strange nuances in how one configures those things. And so a lot of that, I think, has to do with ease of use. And I'm sure we can simplify access control a lot from what we have in Second Life. But I would love to hear. We've also heard in the past of wishes to be able to connect your users with Second Life, where you can manage user access from places where you already do manage this within your institutions today. And support for third-party authentication and access control is something that we're building into the foundation of the next generation platform. Again, we're talking about something that will take quite a while to get to the point where it can replace what you're able to achieve in Second Life today, but it's something we're thinking about from the ground up in the future. But if there are things you think you can do in the short term that in Second Life to improve them, please let us know. Another issue we hear quite frequently is viewer updates and how that can cause sort of pain within the IT departments at institutions where a lot of students walk into a lab to start a class and boom, all these viewers wants to upgrade and sort of disturbs the flow of your teachings. And actually, Oz Linden, who heads up engineering for Second Life, is holding a session this Friday at this conference to get more insights into what issues you have there, and so we can figure out how we can solve these issues. I think some of those issues are solvable today, and it might, hopefully, it's mostly about us better explain how to manage this process. But there might also be some things we have to fix in the product to make it solve this problem. So those are some of the questions that this group of people put in front of us. I think the list was longer than that, but those are some of the top questions that I figured I'd try and tackle up front. Let's talk a little bit about the future. So where's it going? Starting with Second Life, we're obviously still continuing to improve Second Life. We have a very dedicated Second Life team, just like yourselves. The people that work on Second Life in here are extreme fans of their product, and they love working on it. And the areas that they will continue to work on is performance and stability. That's a never-ending battle. They will continue to fix bugs and improve performance and make things stable. For example, a lot of work gone into making our chat system more reliable, where messages used to get dropped and stuff like that. And we're getting very close to having that completely solved, but more work happening. The as I mentioned earlier, another area that we want to continue to focus on is the onboarding experience, whether it's generically for us onboarding new users to the platform or making it easier for you to onboard your users and students. It's something that's important to us, making it easier for new users to come on board, understand how to use the environment, and in particular, be able to get directly dropped into the context that's relevant to them, whether it's your classroom or a particular experience. Experience keys, maybe not relevant for all of you, but if you're a creator where you want to have more control over what avatars can and cannot do, or how they move through the flow of an experience, whether it's a guided lesson or the experience keys allows you to take a lot more control over the user experience. So that's going to continue to roll out. We're already seeing some really interesting games being developed using experience keys, but I think a lot of that can also be leveraged in the context of education. We'll continue to further improve avatars, just make them look better, make them move better, make them move their mouths better, whatever we can to make avatars improvements. We'll continue to work on that. We may even think of some ways to be able to extend the skeleton to be able to do some interesting things in that area. Another one I hear a lot from educators is the ability to play media. So media on a prim. The current web control we have today in Second Life is very old and is not really up to date on using current web standards. So we are working on upgrading that control to be HTML5 compatible. So uh, don't think Flash, don't think QuickTime and those proprietary formats, but HTML5 we want to have great support for, so that you can do rich media on a prim that way. So more to come on that. And then the thing I mentioned earlier of making sure that we solve this upgrade problem that some of you have communicated to us, where you want to have controls over when viewers get upgraded in your lab environments. So moving on sort of more generally about the future, and then on to what we're working on next. Well, first of all, it's just an incredibly exciting time. The amount of investment that's going into virtual reality across companies, across hardware and software and services is like going absolutely crazy right now. What was almost no investment a year ago from our perspective is now everybody's suddenly involved, and it's almost crazy to try and even keep track of all the new VR products that's popping up every day, left and right. And this is helping us tremendously, because obviously the better hardware we can have, whether it's HMDs like the Oculus or new input devices to interact with virtual experiences, these are all things that we love to see progressing forward, and it's progressing faster now than it ever has. I think in the last 6-9 months, we've seen more um, activity in this space than we've had probably in the previous, tens of years. So it's incredible. And you have companies like Facebook, Valve, Sony, Google, Microsoft, Samsung, and many others, putting a lot of money and effort into making virtual experiences go to the next level. So that's and the number of startups I see. You can pick any word with and throw the two letters V and R in there, and there's some startup every day. Education VR, health VR, entertainment VR, VR this or something VR. It's happening fast and furious. So which means that there's more competition. Um, but I think we don't see that as a big of an issue, although we realize we have to be working really hard to make sure we stay in the lead, and that we work on a platform that can take advantage of all these technologies on a go-forward basis for many years to come, which is why we're investing so much of our effort on building this next generation platform. Um, we had a great visit last week by Jeremy Bailenson from Stanford. I'm sure many of you have heard of his work. If you haven't seen any of his work, I highly recommend that you look up Jeremy Bailenson from Stanford's work. He's done a tremendous amount of interesting research in the context of how you can use virtual reality to improve learning and teaching. So we have a good relationship with him, and he has also one of the best, if not the best, virtual reality lab over at Stanford that I had the fortune to visit last year, and I think we're going to take tours of the company through that here in the coming few weeks. And he has some fascinating insights into what's possible in the context of VR with regards to teaching and learning. And some of those nuggets we'll figure out how to take advantage of on a go-forward basis as we think about the next platform. So great guy. And so it's obvious to us that in the future, education will be a very virtual reality in education is going to be a very important combination. Um, you guys are the pioneers. We are together the pioneers for what it means to make education work better because of virtual reality, and make virtual reality better because of education. And uh, I'm so excited just to be on this journey together with you all to figure out what we can do to take it to the next level. Um, we're going to make it happen. We feel that it's ours to um, it's our job to make sure that we're the best solution possible for all of you to use our products and services to be able to do what you want to do. And so this is core to us. Um, so the future platform for virtual experiences. Um, we've said that the next generation platform, we still don't have a name for this thing. We have a code name internally, but we don't want to leak that out or use that because that could just be confusing and distracting, and it's probably going to change soon anyway. Um, so we just refer to it as a next generation platform. We do not refer to it as SL 2.0 because that might imply a little bit too much linearity. And we don't necessarily want to constrain ourselves by the past, but we also obviously want to take advantage of and leverage our learnings from the past. Um, but the progress on this is going very well. Um, I would say we're about 8, 9 months in working on this. I would say the last 6 months have been like absolute full on with a big crew. We're talking, close to 40 people or more. When you talk just, probably 30 plus just engineers, and then obviously a bunch of product managers and designers working on this product. Um, and there's a number of areas to where we think about it quite differently from Second Life. Um, and we did spend time thinking about why did Second Life, sort of hit the ceiling, if you will. Many years ago, it peaked at 1.1 million monthly users, and these days it's around 900,000. So it's not a huge difference from the highs and where we are today. But why didn't it go to 5 million, 10 million, 100 million? And what can we do to um, solve some of the things that we thought caused it to sort of max out there? One area where we're thinking, want to think quite differently is discovery. How do I discover an experience? Today, you pretty much have to be inside Second Life to discover an experience. And we want to make it a lot easier for people to be able to discover experience from the outside. And so that you can create an experience and much more easily find your experience and enter your experience without having to necessarily at that point be aware of sort of the notion of this platform or what other types of things are available to them. They can discover those as they go along, but make it easier for you to directly bring your audience into your experiences. Accessibility. Today, when you leave your PC, you pretty much leave Second Life behind. What can we do to make sure that it's available on more platforms? It's obviously getting more complicated now with all these VR platforms. So what used to be PC, Windows and Mac, which we support today, and then mobile, which you can get access to if you use a third-party service like SLGo, or some other clients that support mobile. But we want to think about mobile as sort of something that we can support from the beginning. But again, the number of platforms across mobile, PCs, and VR is just getting it's getting just more and more of them. So it's tough to keep up. But we are building the next generation platform from the ground up to make it possible for us to take advantage of all these different platforms. Scalability. Um, this is a really important one. An event like this is, highlights that, there's a tremendous amount of effort that goes into putting on um, a a meeting like this with just a couple hundred people in world. You have to put together four corners, and you have to do a lot of work, and it still probably sort of is creaking at the seams as we speak to put something like this on. We want the next generation platform to make it sort of the size of an event like this to be a trivial exercise, and then also figure out how with various techniques make it possible to do events like this for tens of thousands of people. Um, that's one way to think of scalability. How do you just get more people in the region? How do you get more people to be able to participate in an event at the same time? But also the scalability for creators. How can we make it possible for creators to not only reach a larger audience, but sort of be able to make more money too? How can an experience be created? Well, take the virtual, take the classroom that Texas A&M put together for teaching kids chemistry. The developers of that experience of teaching chemistry, they probably did as a one-off for some fee job for Texas A&M to create that classroom. When that classroom is in use by students at Texas A&M, 20 students, whatever, then that experience is fully in use. What if that developer could have an unlimited number of copies of that experience to rent out or sell, and every institution could use that virtual classroom all at the same time? That makes for a much more appealing prospect for a creator of an experience and gives them a greater opportunity to monetize their experience. And then we'll get more high quality experience creators introduced into the economy, and sort of everything sort of heads upwards. So that's something we think about a lot. We also think about quality. Quality, it's a range of things: ease of use, um, quality of physics, lighting, basic performance of how smooth are things, um, how easy is it to do things, how natural of an avatar can we make. The skeleton system in the new avatars we're working on are way, way, way more complex than what we have in Second Life. How can we make it easy for people to shop, get dressed, and do these types of activities with much higher visual fidelity at the same time? So we think a lot about that. And then monetization, the way we monetize. I'd say our business model is a little bit strange in Second Life today. We charge you a lot for land, and then we charge almost nothing for all of the transactions that happens in world. So, I've said this before, but generally we think about how do we lower property taxes by a lot, and at the same time we'll have to increase sales taxes to make up some of the difference. And then also, how can we build a platform that has technically less demanding, so that it costs less for us to operate all of this content that we're running all the time, so that we can have a lower barrier of entry and make it possible for people to come in and create some really interesting things at very low cost. And so that's a big focus of us. How can we have how can we make less money per user almost, but have a lot more users? Is kind of the core of the puzzle we're trying to solve for. Um, at the beginning, this platform we're working on will start to reveal itself to just a few hand-picked alpha users this summer. Those users will, for starters, need to know a tool called Maya, which is, a fairly sophisticated and complicated tool that, most of us normal human beings cannot even begin to think of how to use. The reason we started with that is because it takes a lot of effort would take a lot of effort for us to create those creation tools, and we focused more of by allowing for third-party content tools. We can focus more of our energy on sort of the runtime aspects of the environment, and then layer in more and more in-world creation tools over time. And Maya is just a starting point. Ultimately, we want to support a huge array of third-party tools: Maya, 3D Max, SketchUp, any tool that any creator is comfortable with using, we want to make it possible for them to take content from there directly into this next generation platform, and then basically just instantly walk into that content and easily invite people into that content and start to socialize and in and around that content. Um, Meanwhile, while we're working on this platform, after it starts to reveal itself for a few this summer, as time progresses, we'll invite more and more people as it gets easier and easier to use, and as we figure out a lot of the bugs and issues to make it sort of um, a useful experience for you, then more and more of you will obviously be invited to come on board over time. Um, Meanwhile, Second Life is not going anywhere. We'll continue to improve it, like I said earlier, and it could be years before any of you decide that you would rather use this new thing we're working on versus Second Life, and that's fine with us. Um, the new platform, in the beginning, I mentioned accessibility and multiple platforms, but the two platforms that we're definitely focused on as number one and two is virtual reality and PC. So any content that's created in the new platform will be a great experience in something like Oculus and on PC. And then we'll continue to think about what platforms to bring on next after that. But those are the sort of the number one and two platforms that we'll support out of the way. We will spend a lot of time understanding what it means to create content in the context of virtual reality hardware, like the Oculus. How does that change the type of content you want to create? What kind of use cases make sense in the context of virtual reality? So we'll be spending quite a bit of time in there, and as all of this hardware will start to sort of reveal itself for a few $100, um, later this year, but more likely sort of early next year. So we're still a year away, I would say, from some of these HMDs or head-mounted displays to start to make their way into the hands of ordinary consumers. But we want to make sure that we're well aware of what it means to develop content and experiences for those for that hardware. So that's definitely top of mind. So to conclude, before we open up for Q&A here, it's great to be here. The world around us is much more interesting today than it was just even a year ago. We, you, educators, Second Life users, Lars, we understand the value of these virtual experiences. We've been doing it for a long time, and we'll continue to do it for much, much longer. We're investing heavily to be as relevant as possible in the future. And just like we have unparalleled experience in providing the platform, you, as the pioneers and early adopters, have a huge leg up on understanding what education can and should be in the future. And so I'm really looking forward to what we can accomplish together to change the way we can teach and learn. So with that, I am happy to start taking questions.
Okay, great. We actually already have a few that have been kind of sent to us, so I'd like to start with just a couple that have been, they're both related in that they're both on accessibility. Um, the first one is,
I need to? Sorry, I need to add some volume to my here.
okay, all right.
There we go.
Okay, first question is, will there be any possibility of in-world automated voice to text built into the next generation platform? Maybe also text to voice?
So the first question is, will there be text to voice and voice to text capabilities in the next generation platform? Uh, it's not on the roadmap right now, but I also don't see that it being necessarily a hugely complicated thing to add. there's some really great third-party services that we could hook into to make some of those capabilities possible. And it might not even be us. Maybe it's a maybe it's a some creator will add that functionality to the next platform. But it's something we talk about quite a bit because in virtual reality, for those who have tried on some of those goggles, your keyboard and mouse suddenly feel like not proper instruments for interacting and communicating. Um, Voice will obviously be a very natural way of interacting in VR, but that doesn't work for everybody in all use cases. So voice to text and text to voice makes absolute sense, but I don't see it being a super difficult thing to do. Um, I'm sure we could use some Google service or something like that to make that a pretty darn good experience without too much work. So I'm not sure when that could happen, but I think it's completely doable.
Okay, thank you. And there's another question related to that on accessibility. Basically, it's a more general one. What will the focus on accessibility be in the new Second Life or SL, whatever they're calling it, especially in terms of blind accessibility? Text-only viewers are already available and could be integrated.
So the question is, what other work will we do with regards to accessibility, not like I spoke about it, with regards to what devices you can access, but what work will we do to make sure that the next generation platform can easily be used by someone who's blind or have some other, um, yeah, for the blind, for example. Um, it's very early to know exactly how we'll tackle it. We just need to know. Uh, it's a good question. I don't have an answer. We've stated before that we're not planning for our client, at least for the beginning and possibly never, but never say never, but we're not starting with it being open source. So some of these viewers you have for Second Life that can specifically target some of those use cases will not be easily done. We might have to partner with some of those people to better understand how we can make sure that we build some of those things into the one viewer we will do. So I will take notes of this and actually ask the product team to make sure that this is in their minds as they move forward.
Okay, thank you. Kevin, do you have a few questions you want to add? I have a few more also, but I'd like to give you an opportunity now.
Right. Well, most of the questions that I've been seeing on this half of the stage here, a lot of them have to do with, again, similar types of things, tools, integration of tools into the current platform, integration of tools into the new platform. Certainly things, obviously there's still a few pain points like group chats, the ability to use calendars, meeting tools especially are a big thing that a few people have asked about.
Yeah. So lots of question around tools. Um, well, one thing is obviously, like I mentioned earlier, is that we want to make the ability to use a huge range of third-party tools and make sure we support sort of common file formats as well as we can. So whether it's FBX, OBJ, stuff like that, so that a lot of third-party tools that do a much better job of specifically creating content for various use cases you could leverage, which is not that easy to do in Second Life today. We want to make that very easy and support a huge number of third-party tools to be the part of the creation or tool chain, as we call it, for the next generation platform. The in-world tools will start mostly to focus on how you can lay things out. So I can import a lot of things, but then sort of place them, rotate, scale, and of that nature. And then obviously, ultimately make it easy for you to script interact, put script on things to interact, create interactivity and other functionality. The scripting language will be C#, which is a good thing because there's obviously a lot more people that know how to do things in C# than there ever will be to understand how to do something in Linden scripting language. So you'll have a real programming language to work with. And so right there, you can easily use a lot of existing talent in the world today to create some really incredible content with third-party tools and C#. you have millions and millions of people that can contribute towards creating content versus having to train someone from the ground up how to create something inside of Second Life, which has proprietary tools for 3D and scripting. Like I said, over time, we're obviously going to make it easier to do layout within the world, but we're also exploring technologies like voxels to think of ways to make it easy for, I would say, non 3D experts to be able to create environments and structures. So that's an area that we're investing some time in right now to understand what we can bring to the table there, so that we can sort of hit a much broader range of creators, from professionals who can use the tools they're comfortable with today to hobbyists that are willing to learn some new tools and who could benefit from using things like voxel systems to easily sort of paint and chip away to create terrain and tunnels and caves and stuff like that, all the way to making sure that for most of us who really don't create, but just more or less customize the environment, that it's very easy for the rest of us to, furnish our house or set up our lab or get dressed, which today I would say is actually, can sometimes be maddeningly difficult in Second Life. So we want to make that as easy as it can possibly be. And we also want to continue to be as open as possible, so that whatever we don't supply, third parties can sort of extend what we're doing to provide additional solutions and value on top of what we're doing.
Right. There's another question that I have here, and it's specifically with regards to like on the next gen platform. You were mentioning that Maya is sort of going to be the tool of choice with regards to, I guess, creating in-world objects. And a number of people are wondering why Maya and not more open source tools such as Blender.
So the question here is why do we start with Maya as opposed to something like open source like Blender?
Yeah, and I think the main concern really is more why go with the most expensive option for the residents rather than the cheapest option.
Yeah, or why do we choose something that is so expensive versus something that's free or cheap? Like I said, this is very early. We started with the most sophisticated tool that allows us to create the most sophisticated content possible, not just 3D content, but also animation, where we can get full stress of almost every use case we can think of. So it's almost more for our convenience. It's not the intent that this is going to be the starting point for you guys. By the time most of you would find it worthwhile to start working in this platform, I would expect us to have support for many other tools. But it was the tool that we could get our expert users to create the most variety of content and stress our engine to the maximum with the least amount of effort. So it was basically the fastest path for us to get the most complex content created as soon as possible without having to build a lot of tools to do that. So by the time it'll be more generally available, we'll be having support for many other tools, including Blender and whatever tool hopefully you ultimately choose.
Okay, we have another question here. This one for creators, or from creators, I should say. For creators or anyone that makes money in Second Life, is there going to be an improvement in the turnaround time for payment credit processes?
So the next question here is about whether turnaround time for payment. Actually, we have a lot of interesting work going on in Second Life right now. We're at the early stages. I could have mentioned this earlier. I wasn't sure if the education community was interested in getting paid as much as other communities.
Yes.
But we are starting to figure out all the rules that we have to have in place to understand what users can we trust. I mean, to the degree that we can pay them and we know who they are. Obviously, we have to do a tremendous amount of work on compliance to make sure that money that goes out meets all the criteria to be so that we can have comfortable relationships with banks. We don't want money laundering or any of those shenanigans going on. So we now have done so much work in that area that we are started the process of auto pay, which means that once we know a profile of a user, we have the information we need, or what's KYC, know your customer, which is an important aspect, which is today when you reach certain amounts of money that you want to get paid out, we have started to ask you for all kinds of information, to identify you, to make sure you're not on some terrorist watch list and you're not um, uh, and we know that the activities you're doing are within the bounds of the law, et cetera, et cetera. Once we know you're in good standing, I'm hoping that we can pay you out in hours rather than days. Today, it takes 5 working days for us to sort of manually make sure that everybody who wants to get paid out, and remember, last year we paid out over $60 million, which means people are asking to get paid out more than $1 million every week. And there's quite a few of you. So it takes quite a bit of effort to just make sure that all of those payouts are legit. And we're just now getting into a phase where for a large portion of those, especially with customers of long-standing and we have all the data we need, we can sort of have an automatic payout process for. So that's something I hope will reveal itself over the next month or two.
Okay, and I have another educator-related question. Could you please consider safety and accessibility for young and teenage learners through a new platform, grid, or console or software?
Yeah. So how do we make this safe for younger users? Well, one interesting decision we made amongst ourselves just the other day was that we want the next generation platform to be 13 plus. So we're going to sort of lower the age by which someone can participate. Today, I think it's 16 plus. Actually, we've realized there's no difference, legally speaking, I think, between 13 and 18 versus 16 and 18. So our goal is to make it something that we can get users 13 and plus to participate in, and therefore have to solve whatever issues arise because of that. And that's a challenge that we've put in front of ourselves.
Okay, I've got a couple of additional questions here. Sorry, I'm just trying to how to figure out to rephrase this, just because it's an interesting question. The current somebody's asking in terms of how to get access to the current demographic information of Second Life residents and age groups, etc. But I think the more important question here surrounding that is right at the moment there's a lot of server statistics that if you are the owner of a website you can get access to. So you can find out information like demographics, you can find out where people are coming from, you can get information in terms of heat maps and what have you in terms of where people are going on your websites. But none of those tools are currently available inside Second Life. Are there any plans to introduce those either as part of the current platform or the new one that you guys are working on?
So this, because our focus is in ultimately helping creators succeed, it must be in our thinking of how we provide you the data that empowers you to succeed. What we have to figure out is where do we draw the line on what level of detail of that data you can get? because we obviously have a relationship with the customer, and so do you. Um, and, but we can't necessarily give you all the information. For example, it wouldn't be wise of us to give you access to our customers' credit card information. So where do we draw the line on individual data versus data in aggregate? But I would love for all of you to be able to have something like, Google Analytics, if you will, for your experience so that you can understand how your experience is performing. What is the retention rate? What is the conversion rate? How do you perform versus others? Who is performing great so that you can go look at their experiences and learn from them. So providing you with that kind of data and those insights, I think will make you smarter, which will make your creations better, which will, drive the quality up of everything. So it's definitely our intent to give you as much data as we possibly can, because that will just make you better, and that will make you more successful, and that will make ultimately customers of your experiences that much more successful, and so it lifts all boats. So we're in alignment on that one.
Okay. There's another question here, which is talking about diversity of content and how it serves all communities. I think one of the things that this one's actually trying to get at is, especially, there's a lot of talk about how to get content in and out of Second Life. So as you start to introduce these new platforms, is there going to be mechanisms in place such that all of the content that the residents have developed here becomes easily transportable between these different environments?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by environments. Which different environments?
Well, right now, if I develop something with inside Second Life, right, and then I go to this new platform that you're going to be introducing over the next couple of years, will the information I have here be stuck here, or will it be able to be transported to the new?
Yeah. Again, don't expect full backwards compatibility. So just because you built a fully functional experience in Second Life doesn't mean, again, that you can just airlift it in and drop it in and just have it work. Like I said, it will be a different scripting language. The way we think about 3D content will be different, a much more modern approach to it. And we also so we take raw content from the outside world, and we will be able to convert that into our internal format, which will be a highly optimized format for sort of runtime. And it's not even clear to us that we will even preserve the original format in any shape or form, because it does get converted to, like I said, a highly optimized for runtime type of experience. So exporting a full experience, it's not clear how easy it would be, but you obviously still have full control over the original content that you imported in the first place. And also not clear where you could easily drop that content in. I'm not necessarily expecting there to be lots of different worlds that are compatible with each other, where you can easily just take everything you do and just move it over to the next one. A lot of things will be different. Our scripting language will be different. The way we think about 3D content will be different. The way we think about avatars and skeleton systems will be different. So we're focused more on high performance and high quality, and probably less about portability. I would love for a day for there to be more portable, but it's not our main focus. A lot of other companies and groups are thinking about universal standards and common ways of describing content and script and whatnot, so that it could be portable. And maybe when those standards sort of come into place, we'll participate. But I think it'll be a long time before you can easily have 12 different companies creating 12 different platforms for having virtual experience sort of easily interchange the content amongst themselves. It's just it just would add so much complexity. And also, ultimately, if you want that to succeed, you have to target lowest common denominator, which doesn't necessarily, bring you into the future quickly enough. So that's our current perspective.
I think
More
Letty's
questions?
got the next question.
Okay. The next question I have, and we have a lot of them, but I'm afraid we're not going to be able to get to all of them. But this one has come up in different ways. People want to know if you plan to bring up back mentor programs.
Mentor programs. You mean basically utilizing residents as helpers or official helpers. We've had some issues with that in the past. It's a very difficult thing for us to assess the quality of that service. And many times we've heard stories about how some of those helpers were quite biased in what they were trying to achieve, or how they wanted to portray the platform, or what it's for, or what it's not for, or where to go, or what to do, or not to do, that weren't necessarily always aligned with how we looked at things. So we don't have a current plan to bring in a program like that. And yeah, that's it for now.
Okay, Kevin, do you have one more question so that we can wrap up then?
I'm just checking here because we've actually got a whole pile of questions. I think.
And by the way,
Yes, we do.
I can run, just like last year, I can run long. I know you have a schedule and you need to move on with your program, but I'm happy to keep on staying here and asking questions for quite
Well,
a while.
I think they'll keep you here for the rest of the day if you let them. Oh my goodness, where do I even start here? A number of people again coming back to the idea of tools, functionality, how to make things easier. Certainly, they're talking about things. The inventory system probably being one of the biggest ones. I mean, people have tens of thousands of items in their inventories. And are there any plans to introduce new tools just to help with the data management of all that inventory that's out there?
Yeah, I know there's some work going on in Second Life right now to help a little bit, but when we think about the next generation, obviously inventory management is, like everything else, is being completely redone from the ground up. I mean, I'm seriously, the next generation platform is basically stealing nothing from Second Life. It's doing everything from scratch, from the ground up, and all these places where we felt pain in the past, whether it's due to performance or ease of use, we're tackling to do better in the next platform. So I hope all I can say generically is that we plan to solve the problem so that you can easily manage massive inventories and be able to do it in better ways than today. But I don't know exactly how we're going to solve it, but that's our goal.
Well, thank you very much, Ebbe. I know that we probably still would be getting questions into tomorrow from you, but we really do appreciate you being here with us today. We do have, our program unfortunately does need to continue, but thank you so much for coming, and thank you all for being a wonderful audience and for welcoming Ebbe for us once more.
Yeah, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. So do you need this space? Do I need to move on, or can I just stay here and just have people come and chat with me?
They can come and chat with you. We're just moving the program to another venue. But yes,
Okay.
you're most certainly welcome to stay.
I will stay here, and people can just come up and chat with me then.
Excellent. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, guys.